Yes, I did.
My time is.
Yes, it is.
I got like.
So you live up there year round?
One day. In 20 years or so.
No.
There isn't even a lake there.
If there's even like. Want them to succeed. I had a guy that was a good friend of mine last time. We wanted to go, he lived in Roanoke, just in St. Joseph. We go there, so we can. He was there on the 17th.
Counselor White,
Here.
Counselor Guyman,
Here.
Counselor Cowan,
Here.
Counselor Waller,
Here.
Counselor Connerton, Counselor Houghton,
Here.
Counselor Sipperly.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Do we have any conflicts of interest for any of the items tonight? Okay, are you on?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be recusing from item B. That's the rezoning of the mall property. I'm in the notice area and have business attached to that property.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. Anyone else? Okay. Okay, next is receipt of the minutes from July 22nd, 2025. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Commissioner Connerton,
Second.
second by Greg. Okay. Any comments, discussions? I was not there, so I'm abstaining, but
I'm also abstaining. Wasn't there?
okay. Okay, well, let's call for the, well, we'll just do a hand raise because there's a few people. Okay, if everyone's in favor of accepting the minutes as they're written? Okay, looks like we're good. Okay. Next, any comments from citizens appearing for items not on the agenda? Oh, one thing I forgot to bring up, that this meeting is also being held via Zoom. So, people can help me watch up there to see if there's any hand raising. I see none. So, okay, we'll move on to the new items. Okay, the first item is a special use permit for the marijuana dispensary at 2922 Glen Avenue. Watkins.
Good evening, Planning and Zoning Commission. How's everyone doing? So this item is for a special use permit for fired cannabis, which is located at 2922 Glen Avenue. That's the former location of the Green Dragon marijuana business. The zoning is commercial, and it is a lot that's shared with a couple of other businesses. And here I've got you a map of where we're located. We're kind of near Walmart and some other commercial businesses in this area. So this project is a special use permit, which means that it has a little bit higher kind of scrutiny review than would be for an administrative decision. That's why you are all considering this tonight. Special use permits are for projects or types of uses that have kind of varying characteristics in how they operate, and the impacts that they can have on the neighboring properties. And so it is your job tonight to see that it does not have any undue impacts and that it meets the 6 criteria of approval, which all special use permits have to meet. And so I've got on the screen now the 6 criteria. The staff recommendation is that it does meet all 6 of them. And I'm going to go through them briefly with you all next. Let's see, I'll read these to you. First, the use will be compatible with the surrounding area. We don't have any concerns with that because it was formerly the same kind of business that it's proposed to be now. The impacts of the use on the surrounding areas have been adequately minimized. We believe there's no problems there. The third criteria is that the use will be consistent with the general purpose and intent of the code. We don't have any concerns there. The fourth is that the use will comply with all applicable standards of this code. We do think it meets that, but that does maybe merit a little bit more discussion than I'm going to get to in the next slide. Fifth criteria is that the use is in conformance with the comprehensive plan and other city plans and policies. We have no concerns. And then the use minimizes adverse impacts to the health, safety, and welfare of the inhabitants of the surrounding areas and the city. So to the fourth criteria of approval, that the project complies with all of the applicable regulations in the code. There are some kind of interesting characteristics about where it's located. As you all know from reading the packet, there's a 1,000-foot buffer that's required in between all retail marijuana businesses and facilities that include public or private schools, parks, mental health facilities, drug treatment facilities, and other marijuana businesses. And the way we measure that is just straight line, property line to property line, so we don't take into account roads or barriers or anything in between them. So there are a couple of businesses that are of interest here. We have a mental health facility that's about 800 feet away. It's called Health Solutions West. This is the location of the former Mine Springs Center, for everyone who knows that, on South Glen. That business, however, is operating without a business license, which they're required to have. So we interpret that to mean that we don't take that into account when we are applying the regulations for marijuana businesses. And with the public or private school facilities where classes are held for kindergarten through 12th grade, we do have one of those facilities. It's about 575 feet away. It's the automotive program that's run by the Roaring Fork School District. We believe that it was begun after a pretty lengthy absence in around the year 2020. And so that was while the Green Dragon, the former business on the site, was operating legally. And we take that to mean that this business, though it's a new business, can continue the use that was there before. So retail marijuana, when the school moved in, we believe that that it works with our regulations for the retail marijuana use to continue. So even though that's within the buffer area, that is how we interpret what the rules are. A couple of operational requirements that include things like the hours of operation. We are going to require through recommended condition of approval. And now I just wanted to show you the map of where we are in this buffer. So you can hopefully see that on the screen. The green area is the 1,000-foot buffer, and I put those stars. The one on the left is the Health Solutions West, and the star on the other side is the school district property. We do believe that this project is consistent with comprehensive plan. It meets the future land use category designation, and there aren't really any other kind of goals or policies that apply to this project. A couple of minor referral comments from our public works. department and our fire department, they would like to do an inspection along with the building department. I've not received any public comment for this. And so, again, the staff recommendation is to approve this special use permit with the findings and conditions that are in your staff report. I've put them up here on the screen again. They're the same as they are in your packet. These are the conditions. And then I have some action alternatives for you if you guys are thinking a different way. And that's all I have for you now. So let me hear all of your questions.
Okay, thank you, Watkins. Any questions from the commission? Commissioner Connerton.
Thanks, Watkins. I have a question on the code and standards. So, how is this a legal non-conforming use? When this is a new special use application and not simply like a license transfer?
It is a new special use permit, and I should mention that the previous use did not have a special use permit because it was kind of grandfathered in. It operated as a medical marijuana facility before Colorado allowed recreational or retail marijuana. But it is the same use that was there. It's the same location, the same space. There's no change to the footprint of the use. Nothing substantial about it is changing. It's just a new business. And so we interpret that it's a continuation of a use that was awful.
And to piggyback on that, had this been issued a special use permit, that special use permit would have been transferable. And so just recognizing
Okay.
this use in this location has been there. These other businesses have moved into its inside of that 1,000-foot buffer since it's been in place. And so it's a little bit of that. If you move next to the meat packing plant and then complain because it's a meat packing plant, that's not a reason to shut down the meat packing plant. And we're kind of taking that same approach because for all other intents and purposes, it's the kind of location where we want this kind of business and why it was located there originally, frankly.
I have another question. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So in 2020, we did the buffer change, right? And it is only 575 feet from the school or the facility and 800 feet from the mental health drug facility. So I guess just kind of piggybacking off of something that you mentioned, is there like a regulation to negate that 2020? I know you said it was before or whatever, but can I get some more clarity to that? I'm sorry.
So there again, that use was there. The VOTEC facility operated in the early 2000s. I know it wasn't there when I was on the school board because I was arguing for VOTEC programs and we didn't have any in the district. The Green Dragon moved into that location and then they restarted a VOTEC program. I think relatively early this year, in fact, they just started that up. So there again, we're just kind of interpreting that. The Green Dragon still has a valid operating license and permit to operate in that location. They have relinquished it to the city, but not yet. The state has not approved that relinquishment. So from at least my perspective, interpreting how we would fairly apply the standards in the code, that use, that school use moved into the 1,000-foot buffer. In the case law, it's pretty clear you can't shut somebody down because a new use moved in. Similarly, on the mental health facility, it operated, failed, is operating now without a special use permit or without a business license. But there again, that use moved into that 1,000-foot buffer. And the location of this dispensary has always been in this location. And so to interpret that in such a way that we're not unfairly treating a use, they didn't move into that buffer and didn't tell anybody. They have been located in that operation continually since before they could be a dispensary, and that they were a medical dispensary, not a retail.
Hey, one question, I just want to kind of stay on the same thread here just a little bit, but it is, there's no public comment, but that's, a distance from the property line. That's different than the 1,000-foot thing
That's
for people being noticed and that sort of thing. So I guess my question is, and maybe it doesn't even matter, but would we put, tell Roaring Fork School District that, hey, this is now happening and, or does that, we don't even worry about that? I don't want to say
If
care.
you've driven Grand Avenue, it's pretty obvious where the Green Dragon is. It's pretty obvious from the school facility. I mean, one of the things I think they have known. It's kind of hard not to know that there's a dispensary there. I think the other thing of note is that, and Ryan Mews is, I didn't tell him I might call on him, but Ryan Mews, who handles licensing, I don't believe we've had an incident at this location regarding either one of those facilities. Because they've been there, it's been there operating.
Right.
This is just a new ownership group. It's not a new use at the location.
Okay.
I have one more.
No,
And-
I haven't touched it.
Oh, sorry.
Well, we have Commissioner Cowan.
Thank you, Watkins and Carl, for that run through. I guess type of use being what it is, it's gonna stay there. So say a new business comes in, change the use application, it is a different use. And then that goes away and there's another application that comes in for a change of use.
That would be different.
Okay, so that would,
Because part of what, and this is a unique situation because it started as something else. It became a retail dispensary and it didn't get a special use permit at that time because we didn't require it, right? The way that transition happened. So had it gotten a special use permit, that would have been transferable and we would be having this conversation at all because it wouldn't have come in front of you. If it ceases to be that use and it switches over, I don't know, AutoZone expands and then they contract and then it's available again. At that point, because the use had left the location, we'd have an entirely different conversation about whether the use can come back into that location. I think my analysis is based on the fact that it's been continually that use as these other uses moved in, and in fairness and in trying to navigate what is a quirk in the code about how they became licensed there or permitted there underneath the zoning code in an equitable fashion that doesn't get us dinged in another venue. That's kind of that interpretation.
Okay. Commissioner White.
So are all special use permits transferable as long as they maintain the same use?
Unless you guys say they aren't when you issue them, which is fairly rare that we make them personal, but the code, I believe, has a provision that they can be transferred unless the conditions of the special use permit prohibit them from being transferred.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Guyman.
I want to know who and why did they change the buffer from 500 to 1,000 feet in 2020?
I don't know for sure why they did that. It was for my time in the city.
Yeah, some of you were here.
Some
I
of you
know
may
some
have
of you
voted on
were.
this.
State.
It may match some state requirements, some state buffer requirements.
Because I and for the mental health facility as well, I would believe it may or may not be true that this is probably better to keep marijuana further than 1,000 feet away from children, adolescents especially, and mental health patients, right? Like whether they were there first or not. That's the meaning of the buffer.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the regulation of marijuana in the state of Colorado has had an interesting history that I don't know. I'll be quite frank. I don't know how much of it is based on data and how much of it is just based on how people feel about things. We had originally had a 500-foot buffer in Glenwood and then moved it out to 1,000. I don't know if Commissioner Sipperly remembers all of the we have had a number of revisits. Two things we've revisited a lot. One is marijuana regulation and the other one is short-term rentals in town. So I can't recall in 2020, a lot of other stuff was going on that year. So I called this one specifically.
We were asked to reevaluate the buffer zone by council because some people in the community felt like there were going to be too many
retail marijuana stores jammed into the downtown area. There were already some in the downtown. We weighed the option of capping the number of facilities, but instead figured that the buffer zone would assure that they're equally spread out around town. And of course, there was a concern to keep it distant from schools and mental health facilities, but I mean, if that mental health facility is operating without a license, I wouldn't call it a legitimate business. And what we are looking at with the marijuana retail facility is a legitimate business.
I believe the state standard was 500, which is why we adopted it at the time as well, so.
You good? Okay, Commissioner Connerton.
Sorry to be asking so many questions. So just to go back to, okay, so we're putting a business in the same exact location, but where 3 have failed, is that accurate? I'm just wondering, you know, why is this more compatible or sustainable than the other 2 that aren't there anymore?
You're asking why the previous businesses failed?
Well, yeah, I mean, if we're talking about compatibility of the surrounding area, and I was just kind of situating my question in regards to that. And, you know, 2 other businesses were there that were the same exact business, failed. And I'm just wondering, you know, are we limiting opportunities for other businesses if we're just staying in the lane of marijuana businesses there?
Well, I would say, first of all, we don't know that the previous businesses failed. I don't have that information at least. And then 2, you know, the owner, who's not the marijuana operators, the owner is someone else. So they had the opportunity to take another tenant if they had chosen to, and we're just responding to what they're asking to do.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Guyman.
I did have a second question. So, being new to P and Z, I guess my question is, just because this mental health facility that cares for patients with mental health doesn't have a business license, makes them any less of a company that cares for mental health patients with drug abuse problems?
The issue is more whether or not it's legally defensible to deny this application based on a business that doesn't have a business license. That's really the issue in front of you.
Is that in the code that in order to be a health facility, you have to have a business license?
Well, you are required to have a business license to operate a business within the community. And so for us to legally recognize them as a business that would impact it, I think there are 2 issues going on here. One is that, right, that the applicant has identified that this is a business operating without a license, which needs to get corrected. The second one is that it moved into that buffer zone post this use being in that location. Those are the 2 things that affect the mental health facility.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna just kind of beat this dead horse here a little bit. But so on the special use permit that exists already.
That's the oddity. It doesn't actually exist.
Oh,
but
it
the
doesn't.
use of- the
Okay,
use of
right,
this-
right.
there
You
was
said that.
essentially- I know.
It
yeah.
doesn't. So now we're making it be a special use
Yeah.
permit, but it's been a business that's been there already.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, does the app?
Just wanted to clarify. Pete had asked this question before, but so the school knows that the school has got a notice that this was gonna happen, or the schools did not get a notice that this? was
It
gonna
would not have been a property owner that would have been noticed within the 300 now feet noticing. What I was suggesting is that it's pretty hard not to know that it's there.
Yeah, but
Formal
do
notice.
they know that there's a special use permit application?
They were not, it was noticed like every other application is. They are not within the 300 feet, so they were not noticed as a property owner. So from the standpoint of the code's noticing requirements, all noticing requirements have been met, and there's nothing in the special use criteria that requires additional noticing to be done on this type of an application.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I guess now we can hear from the applicant.
Right.
Well,
You need to, and if you could state your name and where you're from, that'd be great.
Yeah, my name is Sahil Patel. I'm a representative from Fired Cannabis. I reside in Lakewood, Colorado at the moment. I appreciate you guys taking your time to review our case. We are seeking approval for a special use permit for the 2922 Glen Ave location. To previously state, I know someone mentioned that the previous business had gone out of business. The market consolidated a lot after 2020, so a lot of large-scale cannabis operators decided to exit communities and environments in which they felt that they were not going to receive an adequate return on their investment. However, our company does feel that Glenwood Springs is a phenomenal place, and we would like to have approval for this location here. We have met all the requirements that you guys have set forth. The previous tenant, Green Dragon, has also been operating there for nearly over a decade now. Reviewing all the information, it seems that it would be appropriate for us to be able to operate a dispensary there if you guys would allow it. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Seeing that there's none, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, guys.
Okay, any comments from the public? Is anyone here from the public for this? Okay, I'll close the public comment.
There's one online.
Oh. Okay,
Who's running Zoom for us?
okay.
Doors closed.
Hi, can you hear me?
Barely.
Okay, can you hear me better right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you also have the owners as well, the applicants speaking here. And weirdly enough, we were actually through a weird quirk, we were actually the owners of the prior business as well. So we are one and the same. So we're the same operators, new business, but it's the same ownership from the before to now. So we've been operating in Glenwood for well over a decade. So we can answer any questions you have if you can hear us.
These are my bosses.
Okay.
Chairman, you might want to have him identify himself for the record.
Oh, yes, this is,
Did you hear that comment?
yes, this is Alex Levine, and then I also have Andrew Levine here as well.
Okay. And you're the owner of the business, is that what I heard?
We're the owners of Fired Cannabis, and we were previously, a long time ago, original founders. We created Green Dragon as well. So we were the same owners of that business as well.
Thank you for joining us.
And we apologize for not being there in person. My daughter is getting married, so we are out of the country right now.
Okay. Well, we're in a beautiful place. I'm just saying, maybe we wish we were with you, but we are here. So, yeah, exactly. It's not a competition. Okay. So any questions for? Okay, well, thank you very much. We have no questions for you. So we'll go on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, then I'll come back to comments from the public because that was a continuation of the applicant. Okay. No other comments from the public. Okay, so the public hearing is closed. So now we bring it back to the commission for comments. And do we want to start with a motion or how do we want to go here? Commissioner Sipperly.
I'll make a motion to approve special use permit 62-2025 action item 1 with the findings and conditions on page 8 of the staff report.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Sipperly and a second by Commissioner White to approve. Questions and comments from commission on? Commissioner Connerton.
Well, yep, I think it's great. I think one thing is because the shop wasn't there prior to even when the other business was there before RF or Roaring Fork put in the shop. It would be good to have, make sure that everybody's made aware and, kids will probably try to come in. I know it's 21 and up, but just to do your due diligence.
Commissioner Guyman.
I'm certainly not against small businesses, but I do think the health of the children and our adolescents trumps small businesses. So I do have concerns that this is within the 1,000-foot buffer of a school and having children. I know that the reason we're going that you suggest that we approve it is because it's always been there, but I don't know if that's really a good reason to trump the reason why we have the 1,000-foot buffer.
Okay, thank you. Other comments? Okay, I'll call for the vote. So
The motion passes 6-1.
okay, thank you very much. Okay, Commissioner Cowan is going to recuse himself now. So Carl, can he sit in here and listen, or does he have to?
You can sit in the hallway.
You get a timeout.
He might lock you out.
And you have to look in the corner.
You can hear pretty well from home. No, it just, from the standpoint of parents and any impact that he could have on.
Okay, no worries.
So.
No worries.
There.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is rezoning for Glenwood Springs Mall PUD to M1 mixed use corridor 51027 Highway 6 and 24. I think they're calling some people in here. They need to be called out probably, especially that guy.
Hi, this is Doug Pratt, land planner with the Land Studio, working with the Glenwood Springs Mall on this project.
That's going to share a screen presentation, but you guys can do yours first.
Thanks.
Who is that guy? Who is that guy? Okay, hey, Jim.
You bet.
Control your audience, Jim. It's my.
The Wild West has begun.
Okay, there we go. Ready to go? All right. Good evening, Jim Hardcastle, Planner Community Development, here to share a planning file with you this evening that we received for a rezoning. It's at the Glenwood Springs Mall. The address is 51027 Highway 6 and 24. It's a grouping of 7 lots or tracks that are part of this rezoning this evening. The tracks A through F are those that are presented as commercial lots. G is just a parking area just to the west of Alpine Bank in the quarter there. So it's a lot that's included here but unaffected to be used in perpetuity for parking. Here's the general location if you aren't aware of the mall. This is just an overview of it. The main item here to be aware of is that the Planning and Zoning Commission is the recommending body to City Council for rezoning requests. Particular note, the purpose of this hearing this evening and your decision is neither to relieve particular hardships nor to confer special privileges or rights on any person. Rezoning should not be used when a special use permit, variance, or administrative adjustment could be used to achieve a similar result. And that is why this is in front of you this evening. It does meet that criteria. The staff recommendation is for approval with the facts and findings and conditions on page 9 and 10. This general idea of a change in zoning from the original PUD to M1 a mixed-use corridor. Comes with it an idea that, and this will resound and kind of echo throughout the presentation, that things have changed in that area in town as they have over the last 40 to 50 years. And as we take what has been used and operating within the PUD to now consider it with the M1 needs to take this into account. The M1 district is intended to accommodate mixed-use development with workable and active streetscapes on Glenwood's primary roadways. The mix of uses in the M1 district is intended to accommodate lighter intensity commercial districts with limited auto-oriented uses compatible with surrounding residential neighborhoods. The M1 district is also intended to offer a diverse mix of housing opportunities at varying densities. This table's here, is here in case you had wanted to inquire as to some of the standards. The ones of note here are the minimum and maximum front setbacks of 5 and 60, meaning the building itself has to be found within those minimum and maximum areas to some degree, not the entire building. And then the side of 5 and 10 is established. This diagram shares with you an overall view of a combination of city zoning, which is lettered in yellow. And now that I see it on the screen, completely indecipherable in that M1 district, which is the district that we're talking about, which is right next to it here to the east, just past the county. Now the county zoning, there are 4 parcels. One, which is not, sorry, 2, which are not contiguous, but we wanted to show that the surrounding area does have a mix of residential and commercial uses also. And then the top right hand corner in the northeast has predominantly residential. Solely residential. Here's another view, an expanded aerial view out to show the city zoning. Let's examine that a little bit further. The area that the mall is proposing to rezone to is the M1 mixed use district, which is in that pinkish area to the east throughout the entirety of 6 and 24 there. Within this review, the intensity of development in the new zoning district is not expected to create significantly adverse impacts and substantial changes in the subject area, and they warrant a zoning change. That idea is predicated on the fact that as development has increased in this area and over a long period of time, as businesses have popped up, the mall can be included within that small area in West Glenwood where businesses are and can be very successful, and the mall can be considered no different. Further, since the establishment of the original PUD, the nature of the surrounding community, uses, intensity, and level of infill development support the change in zoning. The Glenwood Springs Mall development has grown in step with other commercial uses throughout West Glenwood Springs. I'm not going to go through this entire table. This was in your staff report. It just generally states what was included and created within the PUD. And that is 10 specific and non-specific permitted uses by right. When you read those, sale or rental of goods and services, public and private offices, movie theater, retail business, and light commercial uses, restaurants and game rooms. Now, that doesn't seem like a whole lot, but it does open it up to quite a bit more. Why and how those have come in or may not have come in over the years is not a question here. The idea that what the M1 offers is more specific and dynamic and allows a rezoning to help do something for the mall and for the community, which potentially is to revitalize it by making some of these opportunities more visible to tenants and from the owner's perspective, more so when you're looking at trying to market. If you'll notice that in the yellow and pink transfer over to what it is that I've also noted on the uses table in my staff report. And that is the uses permit are in yellow, the conditional are pink, and you'll notice that there are none. Parking requirements have dropped over time from 5.5 to 4.4 spaces per 1,000 feet of leasable area. And I'll connect up with that in a moment with a table that the applicant has shared with us that compares current zoning to proposed M1 zoning under those requirements. I am not going to read this entire table. What this shows simply, and I miscounted in my staff report because I didn't include all of the zoning allowances that were permitted. Some will never be included here because they are residential in nature. They are in homes. And unless this is entirely leveled and homes built, they won't ever be used. But I decided to add them up. So in the future, when M1 comes up, this is what you can take with you to the next case at a next meeting. 64 allowed uses in 22 different categories are permitted uses by right in the M1. 27 uses in 16 categories, use categories, require a special use permit. And in some of these, you'll notice on the left and right side, I put them there just as an acknowledgement. So on the left side, midway down, it says marijuana business commercial. Since we were just talking about it, thought I'd mention it. 0 opportunities for a permitted use in that district. But if you look over to the right, 2 are commercial uses, and I didn't break those out. And so I'm not prepared to go into them unless afterwards during questioning you'd like to. I do have the table and I can bring it up on a different file. In general, when you look, oh, and I got covered up there. I was just basically showing you that I had tabulated everything from the table, the use table out. And in response to a review of that table, the proposed rezoning meets the intent of the M1 mixed use corridor zoning district and the intent of the municipal code. Additionally, the evolution of the M1 zoning district has classified and expanded uses that are suited to such a transitional commercial district, meaning that and you'll see this in the findings, that this does meet the intent of what it is that we're talking about with the uses that are in place now. I will let the applicant talk more about this if they would like to. I don't think it really merits much discussion. I just wanted to be able to bring it up in case we needed to refer to it. But it clearly shows that there's some that there are parking spots that make their way all the way around here. And then you've got these 4 retail businesses. This is Alpine Bank, Planned Parenthood, Big O, and O'Reilly Auto Parts. And I believe they have been there, all of them have been there for quite some time. This is the track G, which is parking only. This is the parking table that I was referring to that indicates and shows that within the PUD at this time, there are 919 spots required by the leasable space. With these values over here, they have 1,235 that are presented and provided. So they do have an excess. Whoa, excuse me. They do have an excess, and with the same evaluation, generally with M1 zoning in the table below, you can see that there is a smaller amount that is required. There was an adjustment by a couple of lots in the spots provided, and I'll let the applicant explain that, with an overall extra number of parking spaces of 355 as opposed to 316 under the current zoning. This is a small diagram to help you understand about the non-conforming setbacks that are created through this property. This is tract E and F. This is A, B, C, and D. This first line identifies the 5-foot setback minimum, and this is the maximum of 60. This is where the buildings were intended to be located with this zoning district, which was created after the PUD. So the intent was to bring buildings closer to the operating public with vehicles, buses, multimodal transportation, bicycles, and walking, to not make these lots so uninviting and big. Now, what has happened here is that the buildings in tract E and F are legal non-conforming. However, if they were to expand and put additions on, say, tract F, put a canopy, an extension canopy built out from the building to welcome visitors into an entrance, that would be minimizing the degree of non-conformity of that setback, and that would be allowed. If they wanted to trim back the building, that would not be allowed. The 4 businesses in the south, A, B, C, and D tracks, all are within that, so they are legal conforming. They are legal businesses with the right to apply for building permits to modify their structures within the confines of standards and development requirements. There was a determination at our pre-application and application meetings that as visitors to these sites enter into the mall, if you can see my cursor, they'll move this way through, and the entrances to all of these are not facing 6 and 24. So although they do adhere to this, the 5 and 60 setback requirements, what they do have is a reverse setback of a 25 on the front, because they are fronting on an access that has less intensity than a primary access, or than a primary arterial. So when it comes down to it, with setbacks and non-conforming structures on ENF, as we move forward, this rezoning is not compromised or is not negatively affected by those. They'll just have to be dealt with by the applicants should they come in for building permits in the future. In reference to the comprehensive plan, see that, let me move that. I just wanted to give you some feedback on the overall area, which is encapsulated in this figure. With a review of the comprehensive plan, as you know, there are so many sections to take into consideration. But generally, with my review, the proposed rezoning generally meets the vision and goals established by the comprehensive plan. It supports the future land use map, falls in nicely with that. It meets the intent of many aspects of the plan framework, and meets the intent of the municipal code in addition to that. All reviewing agencies made comment at our meetings and were not substantial enough to have to list here. Everything just was set on the idea that anybody bringing a building permit or a land use change forward in the future will have to contend with the things and the items that were of note at that time. And most of it was just utilities and infrastructure, parking, which we just discussed at the time. The only thing to add on to that is to let you know that I did receive a public comment yesterday from Glenwood Partnership LLLP. They're the folks to the north in the Cooper Minor subdivision. They're in the county, but they're not objecting to this at all. They support it wholeheartedly. They just wanted to make us aware of the 2 documents that had been recorded in an easement and a re-subdivision, which establish access easements and utility easements throughout the property, and just wanted to make sure that those were observed and we were aware of those as development moves forward. The rezoning criteria and findings are a list of 4, and as you see here, I'd like to read through them if you don't mind. The rezoning is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and the purpose of this code. And actually the findings are items that I've read to you throughout the document that I'm presenting to you at this point. So it reiterates and it supports those statements. The rezoning is consistent with the proposed purpose statement of the proposed zoning district. Substantial changes in the subject area warrant a zoning change. And the intensity of development in the new zoning district is not expected to create significantly adverse impacts to surrounding properties or the neighborhood. Your options this evening are to approve this item in front of you, approve with conditions, deny the application, or you may continue the hearing based on the idea that you need more information to make a decision. The staff report is in front of you with a recommendation for approval of the rezoning request with findings and conditions on pages 9 and 10 of the staff report. Suggested conditions, keep doing that, sorry. Suggested conditions are listed here. Applicants shall comply with all verbal representations made in the public hearing, and that's something that you've seen before, and also within the materials and applications. The applicant shall provide a recorded copy of updated covenants for operation, maintenance, and reciprocal agreements previously established in the reception number and date provided there. and any future development as a result of subdivision within the proposed rezoning area covered in this application shall comply with all requirements contained within our development standards. There might be discussion about number 2, and we're more than welcome to clarify that before we move on. So that will be something that you'll want to contend with potentially in your motion. And then an alternative motion for you to consider if you are not leaning towards approval this evening. The 2 things that I do want to touch on really quickly here. Back at the rezoning criteria and findings, as I read to you throughout this presentation, these sections in pink were amended after your staff report because I failed to get them in there on time. So they just lead to a more robust finding, and I wanted to make sure that that is adjusted within your motion if you see fit. Other than that, I don't have anything else. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to take them.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Questions for Commissioner Sipperly?
I remember hearing about an urban development authority that was working on the mall. Is that still in existence, and is that relevant to this conversation?
It is still in existence, the Urban Renewal Authority. It's not relevant to this conversation. It's more of a financing tool than anything else. And so doesn't have any regulatory authority or authority over the property. This is strictly the property owner.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner White?
So are all the parcels owned by the same individual?
They are not.
They're not, okay.
No, Frank Wood, the primary applicant who's with us this evening, owns E and F in 2 different LLPs. And then the 4 to the south are separate owners, but they are all collectively here as applicants in this movement.
Okay. And I see that any sort of future project would need to conform to the standards, parking standards, and it looks like there's excessive parking at the mall specifically. Is there a use, of course, like we all kind of talk residential type uses, is there a use that would be like a mixed use situation where you see parking in the future not being sufficient? And I know that it's a little irrelevant tonight, but I'm just curious.
No, that's a good question. I think it's incumbent on the owner as they develop, redevelop, maybe they subdivide, maybe they build up. Depending on what they do, it's incumbent on them to make sure that they have the parking that they need for each successive change that they make.
And has there been any dialogue about whether a residential use would fit in that space?
I'll let them speak to that if that would be all right. But
Perfect.
just to be clear, and this goes with any development here in town. Once a development entitlement is held by an applicant, and in this case, if they were to move forward with more development, let's say on some of their open space, which is taken up, not open space, open parking, which would require them to reorganize their parking, then at building permit time, we would reevaluate that and make sure everything is compliant before we issue the building permit.
Right. And I love that landscaping is included in that because it's pretty unsightly out there. So any sort of new.
And as future changes are made out there that are substantial and they are warranted or required within our code, then they will have to potentially address landscaping, open space, and other issues.
And this kind of is similar to what Carolyn's asking, and maybe you can't answer this, but oftentimes as a commission, we see these type of zoning changes or code changes because there's something bigger coming down the pike. And so I guess my question is, has the applicant talked to staff about any future projects that they'd like to see at the mall?
I would like to let the applicant talk about that. This was solely at the discretion of the applicant. They approached us, and I think it's more appropriate for them to speak to that. But
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Guyman. Turn on. There you go.
Can you explain why at the very beginning you said that the purpose is neither to relieve particular hardship nor to confer special privileges? And that's why we're here today.
Sure, you bet. If they were looking to do something that could be remedied by a special use or by a variance, then we would certainly encourage that and not utilize this tool. This one is a more broad look at an established parcel, and it very well could be a vacant parcel, but the idea of changing what it is that they want to apply or allow within this area is best suited by a rezoning and not by any specific special use permit, which might take an application here and an application there. And a way, in some cases, you have to reorganize or redesign a site. This is almost like a master plan where you can set aside a zoning that apply or select a zoning that applies to the entire site, and everybody's aware of what is allowable.
And I'm like, well, I think with the rest of Glenwood Springs, we'd be really excited to see anything there but what's there right now, like something that'd be like you for people and have some like housing.
Is that a question?
That's not a question, but I guess my concern, well, I will have to wait to hear to see what the plan is, but there were some remarks about where you said that it would make it easier to market if it's rezoned.
Let me take those in combination, what the plan is and for marketing. I think there are two ways of looking at this. What can be redeveloped and built, or what can be or what can be established on the inside as they decide to market differently, to reach out to different vendors, different companies that will bring something that either the regional economy needs, the local economy needs, or the culture kind of demands it. And owners are in charge of that. The city per se isn't, but the zoning sets aside the idea and the inevitability that all of those zoning allowances of permitted uses that I read off to you in brief just allow for that marketability to potential tenants.
But not resale.
No, this applies to resale also.
So you're taking these particular businesses that are only zoned for one thing and not doing well, right? Obviously. And now we're going to not due to special hardships but to rezone it so that they could possibly resell it for more money because we've now rezoned it because it's probably worth more.
Right. Well,
now that we've rezoned it.
You can look at it like that. I think more particular and to be precise, I mean, there is no hardship per se because the applicant can continue business today. He's not being limited in making investments or making moves that improve his investment position. When you look at something that's already in the mall, it doesn't mean that that was the only thing that could go in there. It would certainly be arguable that the previous PUD or the current PUD limits the types of uses that can be placed in there or established.
Yeah. And so it's easier to relieve these businesses that are struggling at the mall. I mean, that's just
right
by rezoning it, and now they can resell it because they could possibly resell it because now it would have more value. And so I don't understand why we wouldn't just have them rezone it or come up with a plan of what they want to do and then have like variances and rezone it that way.
That's almost impossible to do because you can't talk to tenants about what it is that they want, get their consent, then come in for the special use permit in such a fashion that makes it easy for you to do business as the owner.
Yeah, and if I could jump in just in redevelopment writ large, We have a PUD that was originally approved in the county underneath county regulations in like the 70s, which has very little to do with anything we do by way of modern standards. And so from the standpoint of the city administering the redevelopment of this property, things like a rezoning to remove that PUD, that old antiquated PUD that is, as you guys will recall, PUDs are sort of specialized zoning separate and apart from what you would normally do to achieve particular ends. So what we're really dealing with is a PUD that was designed in the 70s by the county for the benefit of this particular indoor mall at that time versus 2025. And thinking about how we want to see our community redevelop and what's the appropriate zoning to achieve that end goal, whether that's this developer or this owner's goal or not, what best fits with the comp plan expectations that Jim has gone over, what fits with the community's vision of how they would like to see and what uses they would like to see redevelop out there. That's the other way to look at this, is purely from the standpoint of what are we trying to achieve, not necessarily even what the owner is trying to achieve.
You good?
I'm good.
Okay. Commissioner White.
So just to piggyback on that a little, so if we rezone the area, does that automatically eliminate the PUD? Or does a PUD function kind of like a subdivision where it has its own rules and then you will have to go through and eliminate the PUD after the rezoning happens?
PUD is zoning. So
Okay,
this
okay.
this does away with the PUD, and maybe we should have been more clear about that. That from the structure of PUD as specialized zoning, this will remove that zoning of PUD and all of that and replace it with a standard zone district in the current code.
Perfect. And then my other question is, I do recall this being a part of our city's comprehensive plan and our goals for the future of our city, a huge part of our plan. So it's good to see it on the.
Was that a question?
I mean, it was, because he was nodding.
wasn't
He
that-
was saying yes.
Okay.
Yes, indeed, it was on the comp plan.
Commissioner Houghton.
Can you give some examples of redevelopment that would, because as I understand it, this even exceeds our maximum parking allowance as it currently sits. It's 125% of the minimum. Is that, I misunderstood that?
No, sorry, I couldn't hear the first.
Oh,
part of what you said.
sorry.
Sorry, that's all right.
As I understand it, this, as it sits now, exceeds the maximum parking allowance in our code, our development code. What kind of actions would trigger the requirement to come into compliance with that? Like, would a change in tenant require that? Would a just
yeah, I think that probably the first redevelopment application, we would have to start bringing each one of those into compliance, whether that was on a subdivision, if they subdivided basis, which is always a possibility to look at something. I think each one of those new pieces that would come in, or the whole thing if it came in as a master plan, would have to be compliant with the code. So like that excess in parking would have to be addressed at that time.
okay?
Commissioner Connerton.
One last question, right? Did you say, and I think you did, that this is gonna be phased, right? Or,
Phased?
yeah, like with development.
Oh,
Well,
no, as development
Yeah,
can phase, but I wasn't alluding to anything that I'm privy to with their future development plans or.
I had a couple other questions, but I'll listen to the applicants.
Okay.
Commissioner White.
I'm only curious about this, and I know that the mall is only, a small portion of the applicant here, but you said they have two parcels that make up the mall? Is there, why would that exist as two parcels and not one? Like, is there any benefit to?
That's probably a great question for the applicant.
Again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
Other questions? Okay, we'll hear from the applicant. If you could state your name.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Jeff Peterson. I'm with Iron Mountain Engineering. Thank you for listening to our rezoning application. Certainly appreciate Jim's thoroughness on going through what he had to present. I believe we have Doug Pratt online, and he's able to put the PowerPoint up, hopefully, so that we can have some limited slides as well. I'll try and move through it relatively quickly, as a lot of what we would be presenting is similar to the city's presentation, and then we can get into questions. Doug, are you able to share?
Yeah, I am. I'm gonna pick the right window for you. So hang on just a second. All right.
Perfect.
Can you see this okay?
Yeah, if you can just do a slideshow.
Okay.
I'll give you a quick next when we're ready.
Okay.
So just an introductory slide. As you are all aware, we're looking at an opportunity to rezone and eliminate the original PUD that was introduced in the mall in 1979 to standardize it and come into conformance with a standard city zoning within the M1 mixed use zone district. So go ahead and flip to the next slide, Doug. As I just mentioned, the original PUD is antiquated. As Carl mentioned, it was developed in Garfield County and is no longer very applicable to today's design standards, today's conditions, and what we want to see developed within the city. So moving to an M1 zoning would align with the city standard, and it provides a clear framework for both current and future development at that mall site. It would be a first step in revitalization of that West Glenwood Mall property and provide clear guidance to future development as to what's required and what is allowed. Go ahead and move on, Doug. So this is a very similar slide to what Jem presented, showing that the Glenwood Springs Mall is kind of congruent with the rest of the West Glenwood along 6 and 24, where all of that corridor is already zoned as an N1 corridor. And you can see it's also utilized over in the Glenwood Meadows area as well. Go ahead to the next slide, Doug. So within the existing conditions, as Jim mentioned, we've got 7 tracks there that consist of Planned Parenthood, Alpine Bank, O'Reilly's Autos Parts, Big O Tires, the Glenwood Springs Mall, and the Wood King property. As you've expressed and is very clear to anyone, the property is underutilized and the outdated PUD language lacks clarity on allowable uses and limits redevelopment opportunities. So go ahead, Doug. This is just the improvement survey plat. It's similar to what you've seen previously as to where those lot lines are with the individual buildings and the subdivision between tract E and F, which I can address later. You will note, or perhaps you're already aware, that the lot line between E and F was recently relocated. It was previously on the western side of the previous JCPenney's store, and that was moved into the Wood King structure. And so basically that property line was moved from the west side of JCPenney's to the east side to include it into that tract F. Go ahead and move on, Doug. So all existing businesses are within the allowable uses of the table Jim showed. Outside of the Glenwood Springs Mall and the Wood King property, the tracks conform with the setback requirements. M1 zoning offers predictability for developers in understanding what the city will require, and also, again, eliminates that antiquated PUD and updates it to align with current city standards. I can talk a little bit about parking, but essentially there are 2 minor discrepancies with Big O Tires and Alpine Bank being slightly short of what is required on their parcel, but they have been able to work agreements with the Glenwood Spring Mall, where, as an example, Big O Tires rents a few spaces from the excess mall parking. And then any non-conformance of existing businesses would be grandfathered in as part of the existing conditions to the current standards. Go ahead to the next slide, Doug. So certainly
we don't have a master plan that all of a sudden, 2 weeks from now, we're gonna come in and say, hey, somebody is interested in buying them all. This is gonna happen with apartments here or condos there. That is not what this rezoning is about. This is a rezoning application only. It is not a part of a grander plan as of yet. It is a first step. I will state that residential development isn't on the horizon in the near future, unfortunately, because unfortunately or fortunately, depending upon how you view it, but because of limitations within Ross's lease, as I'm sure perhaps you're privy to, Ross has some pretty tight controls and within their lease language that prohibit a multitude of things, and residential development is one of them. So that isn't on the horizon given their long-term lease. Go ahead, Doug. As I've kind of stated before, this really is about creating consistent zoning framework across all tracks. It encourages economic reinvestment by providing clear development requirements for future development. It supports the long-term revitalization of West Glenwood Springs, and it ensures public review and input from any future development in front planning and zoning, and the city council should a developer decide to pursue that opportunity. Go ahead, Doug. So again, this is not a development plan. Again, a developer would need to come into planning and zoning for a full review, and it would also require site architectural plan review, which corresponds with the landscaping and parking and other requirements that we've already discussed. So moving forward, Doug. This should support smart growth in an underutilized area, and it improves clarity as discussed and strengthens West Glenwood as a community and commercial hub. So I think that pretty much wraps it up. So I just request that you look at the benefits of what this would do for the mall property, but moreover for West Glenwood and Glenwood as a whole. Then we can move into questions from there. I think we've got one more.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Certainly.
Okay, questions from Commissioner Connerton.
Hey, Jeff. How long is I'm curious with the Ross lease, and I didn't realize it was such a stronghold.
It has been a challenge. I believe they have 2 more 5-year extensions, 3. So it's a significant.
I didn't realize they were the month. And then when you mentioned grandfathered into the other businesses, how long is a grandfather in for? Is that forever?
Well, it's definitely until they were to come in with a change to that use.
Okay.
If they were to modify a building or otherwise, that would need to come into conformance, or a variance would have to be requested for a specific non-conforming item.
Okay. That's it for me.
Commissioner Guyman.
Just another question. Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
About the housing. So the Ross contract says tracks A through F are not allowed to have any housing, or just the 2 tracks that are inside the mall where Ross is?
I believe it would just be the 2 tracks that are controlled by the mall property owners.
Perfect. Thank you.
Commissioner White.
So I'm just curious about the 2 parcel thing. You've got a building that kind of spans both of the parcels. What is the benefit of keeping them as separate parcels and not merging the parcels?
Well, obviously that was how it was originally laid out in a grander sense, and I can't speak to all of the ins and outs and nuances of it, but obviously Wood King has greater tenant occupancy because there is some relief from the conditions within Ross's language.
Okay.
You
Aye.
outside of within the Wood King building, the vacancy rate is much higher.
Got it. And then just curious, I know there are a lot of parcels a part of this, kind of spearheading this rezoning. is the mall owner shouldering the costs of this, or the costs to apply for this being spread out?
This is solely an application by the mall.
Okay.
And entirely paid for by the mall. We spoke with ownership of the other parcels, but it is not something that was determined they had to necessarily provide authorization for to be granted a rezoning.
Right.
So.
I have a follow-up question just on that. So there's no public comment. So if the application was for E and F, so A, B, C, and D, was there any, we haven't gone to public comment, maybe it's there, but that we saw no comment. So are they with you or against, where
We
do they
really
stand?
didn't see a affirmative or a negative. I went to Alpine Bank personally, spoke with John Stelsreed and gave him the information. He was going to take it to their ownership and get back to me if there were any concerns. Didn't receive any. Went to Planned Parenthood multiple times. Actually have a meeting with them tomorrow to discuss further, but again, did not receive any negative comment. Brought information to O'Reilly's. They were going to forward it on to the ownership because they are a tenant in that space. Again, didn't see any returned communication, negative or positive. And so I believe based on that lack of negative feedback that they are with us, but I can't speak to it beyond that.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Guyman.
And so Planned Parenthood and Alpine Bank own the buildings. Are both Big O and O'Reilly tenants then, or are they're not represented here?
That's correct. I believe.
They're both tenants?
Yes.
Yeah, but the owners are not represented here. Okay.
Other questions? I have one, and maybe this is more for Jim, I don't know, but so the M1 zoning, and as we saw from both of the site plans, from a large scale runs up to the east of 6 and 24, which this seems very contiguous with that, so that makes sense. But so what about up Melray? So and I don't know exactly where that stops. And then as you go up Melray, where there's businesses up there, auto body, some rafting company and some other things like that are up there. So would the M1 spill into that area, or is that already M1 or how? Anyway, you understand my question?
Yeah, you bet. Let me bring that zoning map back up. See if we can't get to crux of what it is that you're talking about. Should I leave that one up or this one?
That one.
Probably that one.
Probably this one. Okay.
Because I guess what yeah, well, right.
Right. So you have, as you move north along Melray, then you come in contact with a number of commercial ventures.
But that's all county.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is their commercial limited
Okay.
Zone district. And then some residential dispersed up here, I believe.
Okay, so I guess my question, I think this answers my question then. Just to the east of the mall is M1, which goes up Melray already for all of the city-owned property.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just for what it looks to be, I think 4 parcels or 3.
Right. But that's already M1.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And then was the Glenwood partnership, is that the new storage units? Is that what that is to the, when you mentioned them earlier?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Commissioner Connerton.
I just have one more for you, Jim. Can you speak to a little for number 2 on the condition for approval? Just a little bit, just updated covenants for operation, maintenance, and reciprocal easements.
You bet. So that's something that we talked about in the pre-application. It didn't necessarily come back up again in our application meeting. But I was hoping for further clarification as to whether this needs to be executed or not. Are you?
Are you asking me?
Could you state,
Because I don't know.
could you state your name?
Sorry, Chad Lee. Good to see you guys. That was my exact question I was gonna ask. I don't think we need to mess with the covenants at all. We're just rezoning it. So I don't recall discussing that. So I would prefer if that condition were
That's right.
next.
That was,
My apologies then for including
yeah,
it.
that's
It's
okay.
not having it.
I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Oh, that was a
because-
good catch.
But-
So Carl, do you have any comment on that? Okay. Any other Commissioner Guyman?
Chad, could you explain that more? I don't quite understand what you mean by nixing the covenants.
I think it was suggesting that that condition could come out. There is a recorded copy of the covenants. To the extent that they would be modifying those covenants, we would like to see a copy of those, but if there's not going to be, if the representation is that the covenants as currently drafted and recorded are not going to change, I don't think we would need to have that as a condition of the rezone.
So the parcel will still be encumbered with these same covenants after the rezoning. And if we were to go through a future subdivision or development, we would more than likely need to revise those covenants, and we would do it at that time, but it doesn't need to happen in this rezoning process.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? And I guess Jim here is standing up there too. Okay, thank you very much to the applicant. Oh. Commissioner Guyman.
Jim said that we could ask you what your plan is with the rezoning. So I was wondering what the plan was.
Well, as I stated, there really isn't a plan yet. This is a tool that provides clarity for someone who wanted to develop it to come in and understand what the rules were, what was required, what was needed to meet those city standards, architecturally, landscape wise, parking wise. And so unfortunately, there isn't a master plan here yet, but I think it paves the way to start that conversation.
And with Ross's 15-year lease, can the property be sold with that lease, or do they have the lease and the property can't be sold with the lease?
The property can be sold. It would just be encumbered by the terms and conditions of that lease.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeff.
I like the underutilized.
Okay, any comments from the public? See, I don't see anyone, any hands raised up there, so. Okay, we'll close public hearing. Okay, now we'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Connerton.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve action item 1. To consider approval of rezoning according to criteria found in section 70.060.040. I know that by heart. And rezoning to allow the establishment of the M1 with the recommendation and findings on page 9, striking number 2, which is the concerning the covenants.
The condition number 2.
Condition number 2, yes.
And what I also I'd like to suggest with the add-on of what I had supplemented the 2 findings with in pink.
Yes, but including the 2 findings. Yeah, yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. We agree.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Connerton. We have a second.
I'll second.
Commissioner White seconded. Okay, comments amongst us. Commissioner White.
I'm thrilled to see this. 10 uses for a property like that is ridiculous. And so I think this is a long time coming, and I'm excited for our city. So very much in support of this.
Okay.
And thank you for shouldering the burden of, I don't know if you're the owner, but thank you for shouldering the cost and making this happen.
Thanks, Joy. Commissioner Sipperly.
I also feel like extending that M1 district farther west along highways 6 and 24 is really logical and absolutely in compliance with our comprehensive plan, which was based on a lot of input from our citizens. I think this might offer hope for a little revitalization in that area. I'm going to have to reconsider Ross. And that also makes me wonder at how a lease on a tenant's property can affect things like residential development, but I'm sure that's far above our pay grade here. I do feel like this M1 zoning is absolutely appropriate, and I wonder if any future plans to annex that county parcel behind there would similarly be M1, but that is a hypothetical question.
Exactly. Other comments? Yeah, I'm also some strong support. I think it totally makes sense. It's rolling to the west, makes a lot of sense. It's a great thing to see after all this time. So, and it'll be interesting to see what the development plan is and all the fun and games that come with that. So, any other questions or comments or? Okay, I'll call the question then.
The motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
I have a request for a 5-minute intermission. Okay, see you back here at bingo.
That's great.
No, that's right. We as citizens. Yeah.
Good luck.
Last one I was gonna say, it's gonna be a short break.
But this.
Arms going.
sidewalks. Mary Kay Watkins.
Yes, sir. And just give me a minute to queue up the presentation. Had it up. So what we're doing tonight, considering a code amendment, is something that you all are very familiar with. We do a lot of code changes here in Glenwood, if not always about this exact topic. And so tonight we're going to be talking about code amendment regarding when and where we require new sidewalks. We require new sidewalks when there's new development, obviously when there's no sidewalk existing on the adjacent right of way. What you're doing tonight is creating a recommendation that'll go to City Council. And so regardless of your decision tonight, whether you want to make a recommendation or recommend no change, this will go to City Council. So we're just going to ask for a motion regardless of what you decide to do tonight. Sidewalks in Glenwood are required with new development when one of two things happens. When there's construction that involves changes to more than 50% of the exterior walls of a building, or when there are structural additions of 500 square feet or more. This is about new development. This is when there is no sidewalk present on the street. And I want to mention that there's also a fee in lieu option for providing sidewalk. And I'll talk about what those numbers are and kind of how that functions as an option here in a couple of slides. So sidewalks are important for lots of reasons. When we want to have a community that's walkable, because walkability means that you're more connected to your neighborhood and you can safely be more physically active and healthy. I was at a presentation in Basalt last night where a developer was talking about he's kind of a walkability developer company that they do a lot of interesting and unique projects. And he cited some statistics that 98% of people in Gen Z, our youngest generation, want to live in a walkable neighborhood. And even in the baby boomer generation, 69% of people want that. So obviously walkability is something that we all want, and it's a good thing. Sidewalks are kind of the bare minimum when we talk about walkability. That's what we want to cover before we even get to more kind of forward thinking and aggressive things like detached bike lanes and underpasses and overpasses and road diets and other things like that. On the other hand, ADUs, and by ADUs, I mean accessory dwelling units. I hope everyone's okay with me using the acronym tonight. ADUs is kind of how this conversation came about. This was requested by City Council as a method of reducing the barriers to building ADUs. When people build a detached ADU, usually it's more than 500 square feet, so it triggers this requirement. ADUs are important, if not the most important necessarily, segment of our housing market. They provide rental income and ways for multi-generational living to happen, ways for people to age in place. So ADUs are something that we want also. We have, therefore, sometimes kind of a conflict. We want to encourage ADUs, which are expensive to build. We don't see a whole lot of ADU production in Glenwood, but at the same time, we want the sidewalks. So let's look at what our comprehensive plan has to say about both of these issues. When it comes to reducing ADU barriers, our comprehensive plan has several goals and policies and actions that are in favor of it. We want to increase housing density. We want to encourage accessory dwelling units, period. We want to consider policy changes to increase ADUs. We want to address barriers to ADUs, such as parking, and consider policy changes to increase ADUs and housing strategy. And we want to provide a diversity of housing types. These are all policies that are very in favor of ADUs and reducing barriers to creating them. When it comes to sidewalks, we also have many goals that relate to them. We want to enhance the pedestrian bicycle network. We want to improve the Glenwood Springs multimodal system and urban trail network, including bike and pedestrian connectivity throughout town and filling sidewalk gaps between neighborhoods. This is all quoting verbatim from the comprehensive plan. We want to create a complete streets policy to encourage alternate modes of travel. All transportation infrastructure projects need to include elements to provide safe and efficient use by pedestrians, especially children, non-motor users, bikes, e-bikes, wheelchairs, etc. We want to support the expansion of green transportation options and promote a multimodal mobility network. So I think it's pretty clear that the comprehensive plan supports both of these goals. Our recommendation tonight from the Community Development Department is to not make any changes. Why is that? While both of these things are goals of the city, we have fewer tools at our disposal to build new sidewalks. It basically happens in two ways. When there's new development that triggers those two points that I mentioned earlier, or through big city projects like is happening on Blake Street right now. So that's a large capital expense that takes a lot of planning by city staff. And when it happens all at once, obviously there are impacts to the city and to the neighborhoods where that happens. Those are the only ways in which we really get new sidewalks. With ADUs, we have a few more options. Many of them we're doing right now. We're creating some pre-approved ADU plans and applying for grants to do more of that. We already do things like reduce the costs for the cost of the impact fees when new ADUs are built. We've done that in the past. So there are lots of ways we can incentivize ADUs and reduce barriers to them, but not as many ways. There aren't as many ways to build new sidewalks. That's the reason for this, for the recommendation. If you guys want to go a different direction, made some options for you guys to consider. One could be to increase the threshold of new development. If you remember from that early slide, right now it's new development of 500 square feet. You could increase that to 1,000. And by doing so, you would exempt all ADUs because all ADUs are 1,000 square feet or less in Glenwood. Another option is you could specifically exempt ADUs from those trigger requirements. You could also reduce the fee in lieu amount for ADUs. The fee in lieu amount for a 5-foot sidewalk is $60 per linear foot and $96 for an 8-foot sidewalk. If this option were codified, this would pretty much ensure that anyone who is subject to this requirement would pay the fee in lieu, because that would be significantly below market rate if this is reduced any further. Another option is to add additional streets to the sidewalk exemption list. What streets are on the sidewalk exemption list? Here is a list of partial exemptions. So streets where sidewalk is only required on one side. And I'll just pause here for a minute for you guys to read through this. These are mostly streets that are kind of, that don't have a lot of width to spare. So they're limited in what they could, how they could be built out. Here are full street exemptions. Most of these are located in the Oasis Creek part of town. So the full length of these streets on the list are exempted from sidewalk requirements. All code changes to municipal code are required to meet these 5 conditions of approval. And I'm going to go through them with you. Again, the staff recommendation is to not make any changes, but if you were to, each of these 5 criteria, you would need to make findings that are affirmative for all of them. So this reproduces what was in your staff report. There are some conditions, some of these criteria that certainly do support changes to when sidewalks are required, and they're stated here, number 1 and number 3. But all 5 need to be, you need to make findings for all 5 to be true to recommend approval. And with that, I'd like to take any of your questions.
Okay, thank you, Watkins. Commissioner White.
So explain how this works in real life scenarios. So say I'm on a street that requires sidewalks, but say there's really no sidewalks that have been put in place, but I am going to be required to because I'm putting in my ADU or what have you. So does just in front of my home have a new sidewalk then?
If we do not allow them to do a fee in lieu, yes, and it would look a little bit weird. This has happened in other places though, and believe me, we get this argument. We have this conversation at least a couple or a few times every year, and they say, how could you allow sidewalk just in front of the house? That doesn't make any sense. There are some examples where you do it piecemeal and eventually it becomes a network.
Got it.
So it can happen. If it truly doesn't connect to anything and there's nothing even close for it to connect to, we would be as staff more inclined to push them toward the fee in lieu option, which is allowed by code, but only upon approval by the city engineer.
Okay, and then the other question is, are those fee in lieu funds being used for sidewalks in the future,
Yes.
specifically for them? And what are the fee in lieu, you said right now it's $80 or $60 per.
$60 per linear square foot for a 5-foot sidewalk.
Okay, and you said those are under actual market costs. What are the costs?
I wondered if you'd ask that. So with a 5-foot sidewalk, our engineering standards require 4 inches of cement. And when you don't account for the demolition of whatever's there and the site preparation that has to happen, when you exclude that, it is actually right about market rate.
Okay.
We have some pretty good data right now because the city has been building sidewalks, so we have some new data. It's about right at market rate for those 5-foot sidewalks, but that's excluding the cost of the demo and site, all the site work, the site prep. So under market rate. When it comes to those 8-foot sidewalks, which are required in commercial zone districts, it's under market rate, even excluding the demo and site prep.
Okay.
Commissioner Guyman.
Can you just do the math for me then? So if you have what's a normal size lot in Glenwood, like 50-foot lot, how much is that to build a sidewalk for 50?
Yeah, so that'd be 50 times 60, which is that 3,000?
It's 3,000.
And that's a
I didn't know
single
if that
lot-
was
lot-
per square
lot
foot
bigger
or was
than
that
that.
per foot of sidewalk?
That's per linear foot.
Per the whole, like,
Yeah.
the whole thing. Okay.
Yeah.
But your lot is probably, are you 3 city lots or 4?
7.
You're 7.
I already have a sidewalk, so I'm okay.
Okay. But anyway, I guess all that the point is that it's rare, not rare, but 50 is the minimum size. So a lot of the lots are multiple city lots. Commissioner Sipperly.
I actually have some experience in dealing with permitting and ADU and the sidewalk requirement. It was a corner lot, so the cost for the fee in lieu was about $8,000. And the total for the ADU was only $300,000. That was a significant part of their budget. It wasn't declared at first. It sort of came about later that in order to proceed with the permit, they had to either build the sidewalk or put in the fee in lieu. Now, part of the issue was there was no place to put a sidewalk. I have concerns about the engineering's list of exempted streets, and I have been going on this for years. There are certain streets in town that there's no way to feasibly build a sidewalk without really impeding on people's property. For instance, Minter, Lincoln, Garfield, like all the way up there, there's nowhere to put a sidewalk. So I believe, for one, those streets should be on the sidewalk exempt list. But then I'm always told that engineering holds that list, and it's sort of like they don't let us play with it. So I'm wondering if we could address some of the streets that I feel belong on that list. This particular property that I speak of was on the corner of Minter and Salina Street. Now, I don't know if you know where Salina is, but it's like a 50-foot long street that connects Palmer to Minter. So they made my clients pay the fee in lieu for the sidewalks on both sides of that. And within the last few weeks, the city did pave that street, and they did not put in sidewalks. They didn't even put in concrete curbs. So, I mean, I understand that the fee in lieu doesn't necessarily go to cover the sidewalk at the location of the development. And I was trying to convince these clients who are elderly and disabled that their money will go to sidewalk improvements in town that should still benefit them. However, I believe that this sidewalk requirement is a financial burden on development of ADUs. And my interpretation of the comprehensive plan is that it is very important to find space for housing where it can already be served by, you know, local utilities. And we definitely like to see infill. And ADUs do provide a way for people to keep their own house, maybe make some income or move members of their family in, as happened in this instance. And I would hate to see something as silly as a sidewalk requirement impede the ability of our community members to build ADUs.
I could respond to one thing there. I'm not going to disagree with you there. I will just note, though, that sometimes what people consider the edge of their lot isn't always where their lot line actually is. So there are plenty of places in town where the lawn goes to the curb, and so they think that's their lot line. But in reality, you know, there's a few feet of right of way that's part of their lawn. So those are places where there could be sidewalks potentially in the future, depending how much space there is and other considerations.
I will counter that by saying there are also significant grade changes and heavy tree foliage along these places that are where the sidewalks should be. And I believe that requiring sidewalks would really compromise the nature of these neighborhoods, which, by the way, are very walkable. There's hardly any traffic up there. It's not on the way to anywhere, so people do go slow. There's parking on the street, so that slows cars down. And in general, it doesn't seem to create a safety issue on those less traveled streets by not having a sidewalk. I believe it would probably upset the adjacent property owners if the city were to come and make a sidewalk there against their wishes.
And yeah, I have a process question here just to ask. So are we running this like I mean, is this a regular public hearing or is this, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it is a legislative recommendation, so it's a little bit looser, but I would run it like you do every other public hearing you do. The
And I
back
get-
and forth is probably fine a little bit in the moment, but
Yeah.
sticking
Okay.
to the usual
Yeah.
format.
Okay. And I guess then, and I'm just kind of trying to see how it plays out, but do we end up, you know, making all of our own recommendations, or like if we've done other times before, listed, here's a bunch of concerns that we have or things that we like, and then that's what rolls up to city
I
council?
think it's up to you guys. If you have, I mean, I think there's kind of a, you know, staff recommendations to leave it the way it is. You kind of have one choice there of leave it the way it is or do something different. If you're going to go with do something different, then I would suggest you guys, to the extent you can, give some guidance to council on how you would approach that.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Callan.
Thank you. Thank you, Watkins. I guess, so if there's a property owner and say things stay as they are, per the recommendation, is there an opportunity for relief for an affected property owner? So something is onerous, like we perhaps heard about, can they appeal and ask for relief to not have to do that?
Yes, the way that would work would be a variance, which would be decided by y'all.
Okay, thank you. And another question, forgive me for this, whether I think both you and Emery have kind of championed the ADU off the shelf kind of exercise. What's, as far as, you know, kind of looking at what you've kind of modeled, what's the square footage opportunity in those things that you guys have looked at for those detached ADUs?
Like the size of the ones
Yeah.
that we've looked at? Well, they come in all sizes. I'll say, you know, 200 square feet up to 1,500 square feet, and we don't allow them that small or that big. So we, there are plenty of things to look at out there that are between 300 and 1,000, which is what we allow.
Okay. And I guess with that then, because some of those would trigger this requirement, have you also thought about what it would look like to package that development concept in these ADUs? So like, hey, get this, and it comes with a sidewalk, or, you know, some kind of incentive or inducement to facilitate that development.
Yes. I think a lot of that kind of work can come by education and making sure that people know at the outset what they have to do. So we do pre-application meetings with people. We always encourage them to come in to talk to us about what their development plans are before they spend any money on doing things like that. We've worked pretty hard with the software, the permitting software that we rolled out this year, to make sure that our submittal requirements, which are the things that you have to give us when you're submitting an application, that's an important step in making sure that people know what's coming. Because if they see something that they hadn't thought of, they're like, oh, I guess I need to prepare that. And that makes it so that you're not 3 months down the line doing your first set of revisions and you have a surprise. That's what we're trying to avoid. But I think your question also highlights that it's difficult to do one size fits all. It's difficult to do pre-approved plans because every lot can be kind of different. And that's something that we have to accept.
Right. And I guess just kind of also go with that, what I was maybe kind of nitpicking with was opportunity to do some bundling, incentivizing some things, right? If we identify there's a need for perhaps additional ADU development that's detached, standalone, while also trying to do the sidewalks. So I guess just curious if there's discussions on any kind of financial bundling or redirection of fee in lieu or appropriation of things to help encourage that development, just if it's part of that.
Yeah. One thing that we've discussed is making more available lists of licensed contractors to kind of smooth the way for people who want to build ADUs and do these sorts of things. But in terms of bundling these sort of projects that are related, these nonconformities that have to get upgraded, not too much. So there might be something to think about there.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner White?
Okay, so currently, if you are a attached ADU, so like a home that has a basement that's maybe an ADU, or you're redeveloping that space into an ADU, you're not required to put in sidewalk, only if it's detached.
That's right. The only detail I would add is that you could build an attached ADU where you
Have a breezeway or whatever, yeah.
Right. So it would be an addition. You could build an ADU that way, and then that is a way that these requirements would be triggered. But if you're just using the footprint, like I think you're describing, then you're correct. It would not be triggered.
Oh, so even if you were to attach it, you're increasing the footprint of the home, so it would trigger the requirement.
That's right. If it were an addition also.
Okay. And as it stands, so council's recommendation was to bring it forward to exempt ADU, or they wanted us to look at removing this requirement specifically for ADUs, not for any other development purposes, correct?
I'm not sure they got that specific in the direction they gave us. They wanted us to look at reducing barriers to building ADUs.
Okay.
And they, at that discussion, they did specifically bring up sidewalks. But I don't think there was any specific, make this kind of change.
But if we pass this, it specifically only pertains to any sort of ADU development, not any new construction or development on a parcel that would require sidewalks.
Well, that depends what your recommendation is tonight. So one of the options that I presented is increasing the threshold of development, so not specific to ADUs. And if you went that direction, then it would still, any kind of new addition might still trigger that. There are ways to be more targeted and identify just ADUs that would be exempt. So that's what you could consider if you wanted to go that way.
And that was city council's intention at having us review it.
Yes, to reduce barriers to ADUs specifically.
Correct. Okay. Thank you. And then could we, as a recommendation, ask the city engineer to review the city exempt list and update that as a part of I don't know if it would be a requirement because this is legislative, like he said, but as a strong recommendation that be put on a task list for that department?
Yes. So if you wanted to go that direction, I think what you'd want to do tonight is make a motion and, you know, put that in your own words as a recommendation to city council, who could direct staff to do that.
Okay.
Commissioner Guyman.
I have to agree that I like walkability. I live downtown and I don't even know how many miles I walked with my children in the stroller. And so I'm very, very spoiled because all of the streets downtown have sidewalks, or up on Minter and Garfield are very walkable. So I guess I'm a little naive as to which areas need sidewalks.
Well, I think it downtown was, you know, primarily built in the 1880s through 1930s, call it, and I think it all started falling apart around the 1950s or so, which is not a coincidence. That's when we became more autocentric as a nation. Cars started ruling the way we moved around cities, and so those neighborhoods that were built around then and onward often didn't have sidewalks. The developers at the time, I can only assume, didn't think it was very important, and as a city, we weren't requiring them when there was new development. So if your question is where we're missing sidewalks,
That is my question. Yeah.
yeah. There are definitely stretches of South Glenwood, you know, the kind of Highway 82 adjacent streets.
Okay.
I think a lot of, yep, absolutely. And that's a central neighborhood too. A lot of West Glenwood also doesn't have sidewalks.
Okay. The Wild West.
Love West. Westy.
Commissioner Conerton.
How many sidewalk gaps have been filled under the current trigger system? Do you have any idea?
Ooh,
I know,
don't have
it's a tough one. I was just wondering, just curious.
It does happen though. It does happen.
Okay. And so also kind of piggybacking off of what Commissioner White said, if we do this, we can make some, you know, like creative, like location-based exemptions, such as, you know, some problems that you have on streets where really truly it would be almost impossible to put a sidewalk and things like that. I guess I'm familiar with like the process. Like, does somebody show up and say, you can't put a sidewalk here, or you got to?
Well, the you got to part is the trigger requirement that we talked
Okay.
about. I would caution you guys against any kind of location exemptions. I think the list that's in the engineering standards of exempt streets is a reasonable way to do that. That's pretty much based on the width of the road and whether it's feasible to build a sidewalk or not. So I think that's legitimate if there's truly not right away for it to be there. But otherwise, I don't want to make recommendations that would favor one part of the city over another. I think walkability is important everywhere.
I have one more question, I'll be done. Is there a cap on like the size of the project, or it doesn't matter? It's just kind of what you said before, the math.
Yep, it's just a question of whether it meets those that threshold, and
Yeah.
if it does and it's not there, then you have to build it everywhere that is adjacent.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or? You know, the only thing I'd kind of like to reiterate a little bit is, or say what other people have said. I know on my street, which is not on the exemption list, there's a little 18-inch sidewalk that's under the brush that, you know, my dog can use it. Works pretty good for my dog. But I mean, it seems like it's probably double what the exemptions are that are on there on that list would be. So I think it's a pretty sizable task. And I guess one thing I would, and maybe this is more in the comments that we hold till later, but it seems like there are places like, you know, Carolyn or whatnot that talked about that it seems like it's an unnecessary burden on someone on some road where and people have been there there's not any lots for new development or anything like that happening. So turnover is pretty darn slim, is that you have one little sidewalk from an individual homeowner. I mean, it's not like a developer that's doing an office building or something like that. And And I guess I'm doing a comment here instead of a question.
Is that a question?
Exactly.
Question.
Have you?
So that's a question. So what do you think about that? No, that was a comment. Okay.
I think you underlined how there are not many tools to build new sidewalks when we want to build.
Yeah, I mean, I built a lot of them that they ended up being conjoined, but it was a large project. It wasn't like a 50 foot. Anyway. Okay, that wasn't a question.
Comment.
Commissioner White.
I'm sure this is very simplistically stated as well, but I would also like to see, I'm sure it exists, but a priority of areas in the city where that fee in lieu money is being utilized and tackled as a full strip versus small portions being put up by homeowners. And I'm sure the city has a lot of expenses, but walkability definitely was on the comp plan. And so I also feel like having individual homeowners who are just trying to put an ADU in their home, it's a huge burden to put on individuals when I think it's a massive goal for the city. And so there should be maybe a way that the city can figure out how to allocate funds towards that being a priority. And it would be far more effective, it seems.
Was that a question?
That was definitely. So the question is there said list of sidewalks that, or areas where sidewalks would be put in with that fee in lieu money?
A list of kind of capital expenditure projects for roads and streets. I'm not super familiar with that work that's been done, but the obvious example that's happening.
Roads and streets, it's not necessarily being used for sidewalks then.
I would have to confirm with how that fund is set up and the rules that
I
are.
think it's used. I think the sidewalk fund is.
Specifically for sidewalks, yeah.
Okay.
I just wonder if there is, a list of areas of priority of putting in those sidewalks.
I don't know that, but the obvious project that's happening right now is Blake Street. So that's a project where we're installing sidewalks where there were none in some places and making them wider in some places too.
Sucking the fund dry.
We didn't have much to say, Watkins. Any other questions or comments or statements or?
Need a motion so we can.
No, we're moving on. So thanks, Watkins.
Motion's gonna be very
well,
complicated up here.
Well, we need to hear from the public. I mean, we're going through this, so it's time for public comment. I don't know if there is anyone from the public here to give their input. Okay, looks like there's no one. I see no one online. Okay, so now we, bring it back to us and I think we can, I don't know, we've kind of talked about many things. So it's, but maybe not so many things. And so maybe we want to list the items that we've talked about. Or, I'll toss that out, or, if we look at the Watkins, Watkins, why don't you put up your approval thing again, and then you had a couple options too, right? The increasing to 1,000 square feet and dropping the fee. Okay,
And then we can discuss it.
okay.
We don't have to go with the motion, but we can, okay.
Commissioner
Okay,
White.
I will make a motion to approve planning file 2325 code text amendments to title.
You're approving it, that would be no changes.
No, I'm approving it not as written, but I'm approving it with a increase of.
Staff's recommending no changes.
I understand that.
Or do we have to make a new motion? I think that's what she's getting at.
I
Or we
made
need-
It's an approval with an amended, with 1,000 square foot increase to.
I was just gonna say, I mean, it really, you're making a recommendation, whether you want to, you don't necessarily. I would just frame it as a motion to recommend council adopt. And then fill in
Okay.
whatever you're gonna say.
That makes more sense.
Okay. I don't need to restate the planning file. my recommendation is to adopt a new code standard that would increase, that would trigger the requirement for sidewalks for ADUs 1,000 square feet and over. I would also strongly recommend that the city engineer review the exempt list for streets needing, just citywide, to ensure that the exempt list for these triggers are current.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is increase the threshold to 1,000 square feet. And are you trying to target ADUs, or I think as you said it's for all development that's 1,000 square feet or more?
No, I specifically would like it to be for ADUs, 1,000 square feet or larger.
That's the max allowed. Yeah.
Yep.
So
So all ADUs, exactly, all ADUs.
Exempt ADUs.
And but it would not, anyone putting in new development would have to comply with the trigger.
Okay. So 700 square feet, not ADU, and an addition of 700 square feet, yes, trigger?
Yes.
you want to exempt all ADUs from sidewalk?
Yeah.
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 That's what she-
Yep.
And then you had review the exempt list for the citywide streets.
Correct.
And also find alternative plans.
Wait, let's. And I think what we're gonna do, let's kind of come up with our list, and then let's go back and just kind of make sure we're all in on that.
A second, and then
For-
we can hone in.
Then we
another
can keep
piece.
adding. Okay.
No, then we can discuss it, I think is the procedure.
Well, but I think there's other things I think on the list, so I think it's not, the recommendation is like, could be longer.
We
Okay,
can discuss it and revise it. right?
okay.
That's how
Okay.
that works.
I'll second that.
Okay, now let's come up with this piece.
Okay, so we have this 1,000 square feet, which means all ADUs are exempt. Is that what that? Is that right?
That's, yes.
That's
Is
what I
that right?
heard.
Just add the ADUs. and-
So I think if we want to write this out, it would be to stay the same, except that we exempt ADUs.
Exempt ADUs.
So why do? I thought ADUs had to be a percentage of the overall build, I didn't think there was a capped square footage for ADUs.
That's a good memory. It is both things, actually. So ADUs are not allowed to be more than 1,000 square feet, but they're also not allowed to be more than 55% of the floor area of the main house.
Okay, so they are.
So
capped at
max is
1,000,
1,000.
okay.
Okay, then we also had, though, adding on there, or that Joy had, was the review the exempt list for citywide streets.
Go back to the ones that are. or
Do the
one-
list?
Yeah. Not the full one, but the one before that. Wasn't there one with like one sidewalk?
Yeah, so that would be this one.
Oh, that one.
It's short. It's way short.
I don't see that perfect Lake Ave that just got redone. By the bus stop.
Well, if it's not exempt, then that's why we built it, I guess.
Stay on one side.
Well, and then, I mean, also to Connie's question wasn't there a second one that did have the sidewalks on one side, was okay on one side?
Yeah, that's this list. These are partial exemptions, so,
And there was a full exempt list, right?
And then there was a full exempt, there was two of them, right?
which is this one,
Yeah.
this slide.
Okay, let's see if there's, so first off, what do people think about? Okay,
Did you add for, as Joy said, to establish a list of priority sidewalks where the sidewalk funds would go? Because I find it hard to believe that it would be a priority, like in downtown Glenwood.
okay. Commissioner Houghton.
just overall, I think I have a tough time going 0 to 100 on this. We're going, or I guess it'd be 100 to 0 on this. There's got to be some, in my opinion, there's got to be some middle ground where maybe there's a cap on the fee in lieu you pay or something like that. But to completely do away with it, I think I struggle with.
I'll throw in one. Here's a thought on middle ground is that maybe if 50% of that road already had a sidewalk in. You know, it's something like that. I mean, if it's less than 50%, and I'm just throwing a number out there, you know, let's say you have a road that has 20 houses on it or whatever, and if you're the first one, it seemed like to me that's an exemption, but I mean, I agree with the, you know, if you build it, it'll happen kind of thing, but happening might be a generational thing, you know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just, what are you thinking?
I mean, like I said, maybe it's a cap on the fee in lieu that you pay. So there's a lip, you know, up to $3,000, which would be one, roughly speaking, at least one original town site lot. It could be, I don't know. That's the one that immediately comes to mind for me.
Which is like what Watkins had put out there. That was one of the ones he had as an option, right?
A reduced fee.
Yeah, was a reduced 50% fee in lieu, which would be $30 and whatever the other one was, $50 or whatever they are. Yeah. Okay. I think that's another one out there. Thank you. Carolyn.
I do know, I've seen a map of where sidewalks exist and where they're sort of disconnected. So I'm pretty sure that exists somewhere in the city's GIS. And I'm sure the city is using that, but perhaps we can refer to that and try and like both Joy and Commissioner Waller are saying, try to increase the connectivity and fill in the gaps in sidewalks where they do exist. I don't know if that sort of goes in with this ADU thing. That's a basic sidewalk in general. So I'm not sure that it belongs here in this code amendment. What do you think?
You good? Commissioner Connerton.
I have to agree with, I don't believe we should go to 0 net, like they should be exempt. I do think that coming up with a creative way to place a cap or on the fee or that 50% lieu, I think that's a great option because I also agree. I don't think that we should just eliminate it. So.
Commissioner White.
So what if a sidewalk exists already? Say, you know, you're putting in a new home on Pitkin Avenue and there's a sidewalk in place, then are you not required to pay anything or do you still have to pay a fee in lieu?
No, if there's a sidewalk, then you're in luck and that is not an expense you have to worry about.
Yeah, that just seems a little I mean, that does not sit well with me. Because sometimes, yeah, I don't know. That doesn't sit well with me.
Okay, so here's I'll kind of play this out here, see what people think. I mean, really, we're down to your one item is the, do we have them or do we not? And then, I mean, it's like, do we do a middle ground? It sounds like we're looking for, we get rid of them totally, or we have a middle ground that's either the 50% of fees, which is probably, that's what Watkins was recommending. I mean, that's kind of it. And then sounds like secondary things we have are the review the exempt list of citywide streets and then the list of priority sidewalks across the city. Do people kind of agree with that? Is that kind of the Commissioner Guyman?
I do making a list of priority sidewalks, I think would help with the fee in lieu, even if it's regular or reduced, knowing where the sidewalks are going to go. Because obviously if you pay it, that doesn't mean they're gonna build a sidewalk in front of your house, you know?
Correct.
So I think that it'd be nice if people, the city knew where the priority sidewalks should be.
Commissioner Sipperly.
Along that same note, if we have a fee in lieu and you don't put a sidewalk in front of your house, then that money goes to fill in those missing gaps in downtown sidewalks perhaps. So, I mean, it does make a little bit of sense to assure the city some revenue towards improving the town sidewalks in general, even though we might not have continuous sidewalks in all the neighborhoods. So I could see that as a justification for not removing the fee altogether. However, I still in a way feel like we should really cut down all the obstacles to building affordable ADUs that we can, and this is one tool in our toolbox today.
Commissioner Connerton.
Can the amount be capped at a specific amount? Like all ADUs pay this much, that's it, period. Not like some pay 10 grand, some pay 3 grand. Like it's just a set fee. And then you're building an ADU, it just goes along with that application.
I think city council could do that. Yep.
Would that be if they have a sidewalk currently or not?
Yes.
Yes, I think
They
so.
already have one, they pay it anyway.
Yeah. That way it would just be really equitable and it would just be an amount and, you know, everybody would have, it's just a thought. So that would be a recommendation I would like to make.
Do you have to point out that that would increase the cost of ADUs in other places that have the sidewalks?
Yeah, but I mean, if we're not asking 10 grand for every ADU, you know, I mean, like in Carolyn's case, that was an interesting case scenario, you know, where it's like that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
So maybe if we just have one set fee and that's the fee you pay and let the city prevail on priorities. So just a thought. Oh, there's lots of red thrown up.
Commissioner Houghton.
I was actually just gonna say maybe it's something that's proportional to the size of the ADU on a per square foot basis.
Right, which is.
But I don't know if there's a nexus there to assess a fee on a square footage basis, but that would also be equitable and ensure that it's sort of based on the scale of the project rather than the frontage of your lot.
Commissioner Cowan.
Thank you. I guess as we talk about this priority list of sidewalks for the city to develop, what kind of limitations exist on the city to actually do that development, right? I mean, imagine if the city had municipal rights of way where sidewalks need to be developed, that would be either have happened or being discussed and part of the planning process. So is this wish list that we're perhaps recommending dependent on private property owner participation and engagement on that?
Yes, it would mean lots of things. It would be a new work project for our engineering department. And I want to also say that I don't know everything that our engineering department does on a day-to-day basis. You know, they may actually have something like what y'all are discussing, a prioritized list. But it would depend certainly on whether we have the right of way or not, whether there's grade that supports it, other kinds of physical constraints too, like geohazards and soils.
Okay, I guess here's another kind of question. So say the right of way doesn't exist and something needs to be created there in one of these, you know, priority zones that is either identified or to be identified. Carl, is there any kind of de minimis exemption and kind of the current, as we interpret things with what the city can do with private property owners as far as developing some stuff?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's still regardless of how big or small, there's a process we go through, right? Like we can't take your property without just compensation. And frankly, in developing these projects, oftentimes it's a Matt and his department really work with neighborhoods about what they want to see happen and what makes the most sense. Do they have right of way? Does it work with the way the neighborhood works with the drainage, with street width, all of those kinds of things? So I think it really is, I mean, you don't always want to say, well, every neighborhood is unique, but every neighborhood is super unique because of the way the town is laid out and the elevation changes and topography and all of that. So I don't have a great answer for you. We always try to find some kind of a compromise with property owners as we're trying to do these things and make sure that it works for the neighborhood to the maximum extent possible. The other upside that has happened that is helpful, that I think to some degree your priority list has already been created, in that when we're doing road projects, sidewalks are integral. Curb and gutter and sidewalks are always considered a part of that. And with the passage of the increased street tax, you may have noticed a lot of town is torn up. It's going to be that way for years on end because we finally have the funding to start doing that. So a lot of those, that prioritization of what streets are getting rebuilt and have those components is already in place.
Great. Thank you.
Commissioner White?
I guess, just another comment I have about not feeling good about these fees being tacked onto homeowners in areas where there's not sidewalks. This is not, you can never make an overall statement about certain or generalization about areas, but it seems like some of the areas that don't have sidewalks are maybe a little less sightly and maybe have a demographic of homeowners that possibly could not afford a sidewalk, or I don't know. It just, there's a part of me that feels like it should be seen more as an improvement fee, like Amy was stating, that anybody that's putting in an ADU should just be, I don't know if it would be an improvement fee. I don't know what it would be, but just a basic fee that would cover sidewalks in town. And it would spread the cost out over all development and not just these new developed properties that don't have sidewalks.
Okay.
Not unsightly.
Uh-oh. Am
I
a
know,
cyclist?
that was
It might be.
that was a tough one. Yeah. Mine doesn't have it either. It's just, I would say it's not unsightly. River Oaks is unsightly.
I guess
Okay, Commissioner Cowan.
the extent of the streets tax, what does that cover? Is that sidewalk, curb, gutter? Okay.
Yeah. We specifically, I mean, that was actually a lot of conversation in creating that ballot question, is to make sure that everybody understood that when we think about streets, it involves the pedestrian, the bicyclist, the automobile, as well as drainage.
Well, good. This might be a new conversation.
Okay. I guess I'm gonna kind of, let's say, I mean, we have really two things we're talking about. One is, do we do it at all? And then second, if we do it, that's the middle ground, that John kind of brought up. And then we have a couple options in there. So do we want to go first to, do we think we need to do a middle ground? Carolyn?
I could get on board with the flat fee as a middle ground. Because it doesn't matter if you already have a sidewalk or not, you're bringing new people in, they're gonna be putting their feet on the sidewalk, walking around town. Whether it's in your basement or in your backyard, it shouldn't make a difference. So I'm in favor of the flat fee for any ADU, maybe $2,000 or $3,000.
So I guess my question is, so does that, let me just kind of, do we need to take a little quick vote? I mean, do we want to go to middle ground first before we talk about, because I think different than her. But do we want to go to a middle ground?
That's was going to be my question, is that I think to narrow you guys down, I think, just a real quick, I'm just going to, do this in the course of the motion, but like, is there anybody opposed to going to a middle ground?
No.
Okay, so we're middle ground. Okay, so now, so.
There we go. So that
was
the motion on the table.
That was where I was going. That was what I was trying to get to. That's what I was doing. Thank you, Carl, for helping me out. Okay. So we're at middle ground. So here's some options that at least I wrote down. One is a fixed amount. One was,
She said fixed amount, everybody.
fixed amount for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fixed amount for everyone. another one that I'll kind of throw in that John said was that it's an amount based on the scale of the project, not based on the length of your frontage. So, you know, when you apply for your building permit, you give, here's what the cost of your construction is going to be, and it's going to be, you know, 300,000 yours was, or it's going to be 50,000. So if you have a 50,000, I would just say you shouldn't be paying the same fixed amount as someone that's a 300,000. If you have a lot of, maybe you had a mother-in-law's unit or something already down there, that it's an easy thing to do. Anyway, that's, I kind of threw out my opinion, but that was the second one. And then we had, I think, Watkins had, what, 50%
As an
of the fee in lieu. I think those are really the three.
And I think John's idea,
Fee in lieu, explain how that would play out.
so I think in that scenario, you would calculate the fee as it is. So based on the linear frontage of the lot, and then 50% of that.
Okay, and that would just be for ADUs only.
Right.
I would like you all to specify that, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's based on your street front
Right,
linear
right, right.
footage.
I mean, I feel like basing some, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Amy.
Oh.
He's like, uh-oh.
Did you have anything?
Need to come up with one.
Okay.
I have one, but the fixed amount, I mean, like in Connie's case where she mentioned there's 7 lots. And then that's just, if we're trying to promote like this increase of making ADUs be built or people being able to afford them easier. And if the obstacle is a sidewalk, to me, it's like, then we should look at a fixed cost so that, you know, it's not going to be so insurmountable. Because let's say you have 7 lots long and, you know, and she wants to put an ADU up, that's going to probably cost her a lot more than say, I got 1 lot, really small area. And,
Sidewalks won't cost.
but I'm just saying, like, it can add another obstacle if we're trying to eliminate obstacles. I don't know, it's just a thought.
Okay. Commissioner White.
My feedback was just on, I like the idea of some sort of scaled fee as well based off of the project. Like I would not be opposed to that. But it seems like basing that on the budget of the project is not wise, because then you're going to encourage people hiding costs and you know what I mean?
Already.
What's that? I know they do it already, but you don't want to.
So it's like
Square footage seems more logical to me, right?
Okay.
Because that is directly relates
should
to
be
your,
the same.
yeah,
Should be the same.
relates to your costs. But I am also not opposed to the flat fee.
Okay, so are we between flat fee and a scaled fee? And we put out the 50%?
Sounds like it.
Sounds like it.
Okay. So we're down to 2 here.
And can we just make a recommendation to city council that they consider both of those options?
You could, except then I have to do this at city council.
I think we should, I think we should go through and just vote on it. So then they know, you know, maybe only one of us is for one and everyone else is for the other. I think it kind of says that, but it's just a recommendation. And I think, you know, one thing that I'm sure that you'll take all of our comments back to city council, because I think we've had a fairly robust conversation really on the whole thing.
More than
Yeah.
rezoning of.
Well, and yeah. So anyway. Commissioner Guyman.
I think that the flat fee is kind of, for me personally, I think it's a little radical. I mean, if people already have sidewalks, why would that seems like it's changing too much, you know? I like I know we already crossed it off, but I was kind of in favor of the 50% of the in lieu. Because I do think sidewalks are important. And with this new information that the city tax is also going to, the street tax is also going to sidewalks. But I would prefer
Okay.
either the 50% in lieu. I think is,
Well, let's don't cross it off. I mean, let's just keep it there and we can have, one person here, we can just say, here's what it is, if here's how you go. I mean, it doesn't, we're making a recommendation. Commissioner Cowan.
Yeah, they're very similar there. I can't get behind a flat fee. I mean, we're already doing that in the city with the recently passed streets tax. So yeah, I just can't rally there. The flat fee, and what does that mean? Do we have an amount attached to that
Well,
flat fee?
I think maybe I think we'd have to let staff kind of come up with something. I mean, I think it's hard for us to do
I think
that.
as a new concept, it'd be pretty hard for you guys to bang out what that should look like right now,
Right.
or we haven't really thought about that. And honestly, even though I was a little glib about sending up 2 things to council, it may be that you just say, 3 of us supported a flat fee to be determined, and 4 of us supported a scaled fee based on square footage, if that's kind of where you guys are at. I think that's fine.
And I guess really kind of the objective here is, right, the kind of the competing interests, right? We want to develop more sidewalks because we believe it enhances walkability, but we also want to decrease impediments and barriers to ADU development, right? So what's that look like? I feel like a lot of this conversation has shifted away from shedding those barriers to ADU development and became like, let's get more sidewalks. So I just caution as we look at this list where that direction's going. So I defer to really staff recommendation on this. I think if there are some opportunities where people need to bring up uniqueness of their property, there's a process already in place to do that. I do think it's worthwhile to look at the exempt list, to have the city engineer take another look and bring forward an updated list. I think that's a good place to start. It's holistic. And I think that sidewalk question is being addressed by the recent passage of the streets tax.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna say we have 3 things that we're talking about.
Can we vote twice?
No, you can only vote one. Okay, but let me just say, here's what they are. One is the Watkins, the fee in lieu, 50% based on linear street distances. Yeah.
Keeping it as it is, but reducing by 50%
Correct,
for
correct.
ADUs.
So that's one. The next one is a fixed amount to be determined by staff, which would be a large project or a small project. Everyone pays exactly the same. A rich person or a poor person. And I'm not saying it. No, it doesn't matter. But and all of the,
I would say a reduced fee for ADUs, right? It's like.
well,
if
this
you're-
is only ADUs. This is only
Exactly.
ADUs. So we're only talking about it.
Yeah.
And then the third one is a scale to be determined by staff, or here's what that is, but it's based on square footage of the project.
Right.
Okay, so those are the 3. Okay,
and that third one's
Or-
without sidewalks, right? The first and third. is
both,
without
well,
sidewalks.
all 3 of them are about sidewalks. So,
No, like if the house already has a sidewalk,
if it already has a sidewalk, we didn't,
then
that's a 4th one.
That's staff recommendation, right? Which is no change.
Okay,
away from currently in code.
okay. Do you already have, is that already in the recommendation that if there's already a sidewalk that,
That's
There's no
code
fee.
already.
Don't do anything.
that's in
There's
the
already a
code?
sidewalk, you don't have to do anything.
Okay, so that's, okay.
Why not?
Okay, so we have 3. We're down to the scale based on square footage, fee in lieu at 50%, and some fixed amount.
Just
Carolyn.
And in addition, revisit the exempt street.
Yeah, those are 2 other things. I just want to get by this
Yeah.
one here.
Yeah, I feel like it's the most equitable to have a flat fee, because then, you're not punished for not buying a piece of property that doesn't have a sidewalk,
Okay,
But yes, okay.
Commissioner Cowan.
I guess point, like just clarification, are we, in that list, are we saying we want to apply a fee to everybody's sidewalk or not?
Yeah, that's one. That's my question.
Is that,
If someone has a sidewalk already, then they're not having to pay.
That's not number 2.
okay, so that doesn't live in that lives on in this recommendation. It's not. a fee
Well,
that
I mean,
applies.
to me, it's a fixed amount for everyone that doesn't have a,
Okay. Okay.
That's what I was
Fixed
saying.
amount whether you have or don't have a sidewalk.
Yeah.
If you have an ADU, you pay
That's not what I
$2,000.
said.
Okay, so we should get that clarified.
Yeah.
Sorry.
so now we have another one.
No, I
No.
That's what we understood.
That's the flat fee.
That's the flat fee.
Whether or not you have a sidewalk already.
If you are building an ADU, you pay the flat fee
Yeah, okay.
because it's not your fault.
Yeah, you get
Okay.
sidewalks somewhere else.
So then
Yeah.
that's what that is.
That's what I want to see.
Does that clarify?
I think, yeah, I guess. Okay, so if I want to develop an ADU and I have a sidewalk already, the recommendation is that I pay a fee for a sidewalk development, even though I have a sidewalk?
On the fix, if you vote for the fixed amount.
Yeah, you go number 2.
Oh, okay.
This is crazy talk.
I mean, it's like the school tax.
I think we're
for
making it
example.
almost be too
It's-
difficult. I think we need to just move on.
Let's move on. Can we each just?
Commissioner
in a way-
Gammon.
I just want to clarify though, that if we vote for 1 or 3, it's only if you don't have a sidewalk to start with, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Okay. Clear as mud. Okay, you get one vote. The fee in lieu. 50% of the fee in lieu. How many hands for that? Okay, we have one. Okay, the fixed amount for everyone, a flat fee. We have 2, 3. You were,
Not having you.
Well, we're trying to speak.
okay, then based on the scale, there's 4, so then there's 3. For that one, just based on math, right?
I think Cowan was a go with staff recommendation and change nothing. So that's the other option.
Charge them full price. They don't have a sidewalk. Screw them. Yeah.
I mean, that's what you said, right, Cowan?
Okay.
Yeah, you didn't want to change it.
Okay, so let me come back and say, let me make sure I got it. Okay, we have one doing
You change that. I thought we
No.
were looking to this top 3. I'm gonna give it to Calvin too.
Okay, you can go to count 2.
You guys
Okay.
are together.
So we have 2, that are going with the proposal, the way staff's presenting it. We have 2 that are based on the square footage of the project. And then we have 3 that are a fixed amount for everyone, whether you have a sidewalk or not.
That means you're the square footage guy.
I'm a square footage guy, yeah. I'm like.
I think you guys have a recommendation.
Perfect, we did it.
Okay, and then we have 2 other things. We have review the exempt list for citywide streets. And then we have a list of priority sidewalks for
Okay.
the city. I mean, those are, yeah,
And can I?
Well,
just
I think
say
we already
that
voted.
we already voted. We're good.
yeah, we voted.
I think we're gonna call that.
And I think it would be good to have Matt probably. I mean, I guess he's probably always there with council.
Yeah.
Maybe
But,
we should do a field trip to Minter.
No.
No. Okay. Cool, you
Only
good?
if there are enhancements,
Enhanced field trip.
an enhanced field trip that maybe has libations.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go.
Sign me up.
And not as inclining.
I'm making no changes. We're done. Who are you? Tim, this is how our meetings always run. This is it. Normally it's better when Carl's not here. Okay. What else, Watkins?
Did you get all that?
There are some votes and some words said and take it to council.
Well, I think,
Thank you
no,
all
I think
for
we
your-
have.
Who's taking notes? That's what I'm wondering.
I took knife.
All recorded.
Well, usually Hannah's over there clicking away.
It's all recorded. We got it.
Yeah, it's all.
Jim, did you get all this down?
You guys do that.
I mean, really, all we need, we had 2 for staff. we had 2 based on square footage.
Yeah.
And we had 3 based on the fixed amount. And then we had adding the exempt list and the priority sidewalks. I mean, that's,
And it's all recorded.
yeah, whatever. No, but what Joy said is correct.
I know,
Okay.
he's usually like taking.
I don't know if you got what you wanted or not, but you got something.
Good luck
I'm
with it.
attention. No, I mean, really, thank you very much, Watkins. I mean, this is a tough one and you can tell it's a tough, it's a tough one.
Lighting.
I think it'd be a good one. Okay. Okay, we're gonna move on then to commissioner comments. Commissioner White.
Second.
Okay, well, I have a couple. One is welcome, Tim. So is this your first time?
Yeah.
Sitting in? So thank you very much. We're glad to have you here and hopefully you don't have to stay here real long. The thing is.
We're sorry.
They will.
Oh, when you get your update.
And also welcome, Philin, thank you very much. And then also the staff, I'd like to thank staff for doing a good job putting all this stuff together, you know. It looks like your leaders right here, you guys did a great job, so thank you very much. That's all I had. Director comments, I guess, Tim, that's you.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Tim Bergman. I serve as the Director of Operations at the city and also have the pleasure of serving as the Interim Community and Economic Development Director, and working with the smart and dedicated and talented team that put together tonight and everything else. The big update is that on September 15th, your new director will start. So you have me for one meeting. The new director is Trent Hyatt. Yes, some of you may know him. But he's coming back to the city and will be our new director. Yes, he was working at Eagle County, was their deputy director, and now he's coming back to be our director.
He doesn't have to make the drive.
Yeah, I hope they had to move to Eagle.
No.
No, he didn't.
He was driving.
That's great. That's awesome.
Good choice. Yeah.
Okay.